Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94, back with another reaction video. Today we're going to react to why the 2004 Detroit Pistons were not able to repeat. Rasheed Wallace not guarding Robert Horry on that one shot. I think that explains it all. If Rasheed Wallace stayed on Robert Horry and didn't give him that look, I'm pretty sure the Detroit Pistons would be the 2005 back-to-back NBA champions. But nah, Rasheed Wallace let his hand just had to move away from Robert Horry after they told him not to move away from Robert Horry. Come on, man. All Rasheed Wallace had to do was stay on Robert Horry. I don't even want to talk about it. Well, without further ado, let's get right into it.
Let me ask you a question. Which team in NBA history has the most consecutive appearances in the conference finals?
Boston.
If you guessed the Boston Celtics, you were right. From 1957 to 1969, they had 13 straight appearances in the conference finals. That's the longest streak in history. Coming in second are the Los Angeles Lakers with 8 straight appearances from 1982 to 1989. And then coming in third, well, tied for the third longest streak with 3 other teams, it's the Detroit Pistons from 2003 to 2008. However, unlike the Celtics or Lakers, this Pistons team was not a dynasty. They only won a single championship in that time frame, though it was quite the illustrious title run, one of the greatest underdog stories in NBA history. However, why exactly were they not able to repeat? They were quite dominant for a long time, so what held them back in the years following 2004? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and let's take a detailed—
They kept letting players go. First, you let Ben Wallace go to the goddamn Chicago Bulls. I don't know why the fuck you did that. Then you don't build the right team. Then you lose a crucial part of your team identity and your defense on top of that, and you don't replace him. When there were options at the time, there was a Ron Artest at the time. There were options you could have picked up on, you know what I'm saying, to replace Ben Wallace with. Not only that, the main reason you didn't draft Melo. Simple as that. All you had to do was draft Melo. Detroit, you had one job. You had one job, Detroit. Draft Carmelo Anthony. Dynasty. Y'all fucked up.
Look at why the Detroit Pistons were not able to get another title. Now, first things first, what separated the Pistons from those teams I mentioned earlier is that nobody expected them to be this good. Before they started their string of 6 consecutive conference finals, they were viewed as being a team with a ragtag group of players, none of whom were considered championship caliber starters. Some guys, like Chauncey Billups, was the 3rd overall pick in 1997. But he played for 4 different teams in his first 5 seasons before signing with the Pistons in the summer of 2002. Rip Hamilton was also acquired in the same summer via trade, where the Pistons got rid of Jerry Stackhouse, who was jacking up like 20 shots a game on horrendous efficiency. These acquisitions, combined with the intensity of Ben Wallace and later on Rasheed Wallace, created a roster that had a well-defined identity as the toughest, grittiest, most rugged team in the NBA. None of these guys won anything before, so they were very hungry. The 2004 finals was the epitome of that. Despite being huge underdogs, they toppled the Giants in a dominant 5-game series. While they did continue to make it deep into the playoffs, reaching the conference finals every year until 2008, the path to win another title eluded them. Their biggest issue was their lack of a true superstar, and even though they won a title without one, the rest of the NBA got stronger while the Pistons kinda stood in the same place.
That's the main reason right there. You should have drafted Melo. You would have had a superstar. I don't care what I forgot who was it. Was it Ben Wallace or was it Rasheed Wallace? I don't remember who said it. One of them said, if we drafted Melo, Tayshaun Prince would have. Who gives a fuck? Who is Tayshaun Prince? Is Tayshaun Prince a Hall of Famer? Fuck no, nigga. I ain't saying he trash, but he ain't Melo, my nigga. Fuck out of here. Oh, if we would have drafted Melo, Tayshaun Prince would have never became what he became. Fuck out of here. Who is Tayshaun Prince to Carmelo Anthony, bro? Be real. Who is Tayshaun Prince to Carmelo Anthony? I know everybody gonna be like, well, at least he got a ring. At least he got a. What is he to Carmelo Anthony? Are you sitting up here telling me that he's better than Carmelo Anthony because he has a ring? Come on, bro. Be real, bro. Be real. All y'all had to do was draft Melo. Y'all would have been a dynasty. Now, when y'all went up against the Celtics, I don't know about that series. But I know for damn sure you're not losing to no LeBron James and the boo-boo Cavs in 2007. I know that much for sure. I know that much for sure if you got Melo. I'm just saying. You're not losing to that team. Detroit is not losing to that team. That 2007 Cavs team where it was just LeBron and Ilgauskas and a bunch of boo-boo players. Nah, bruh. Ain't no fucking way. Ain't no fucking way. You got Melo on the team. Melo's going off. And I'm pretty sure that was like, what? They third or fourth season. Yeah, by the time players get to like their fourth season, they start dominating, bruh. Like I think around that time in 2007, I believe Melo was like top 3 in scoring, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, around that time, if they would have drafted Melo, Detroit would have been a dynasty. Y'all would probably be up there with the Bulls right now. You'd probably be up there with the Bulls and the Warriors right now. But nah. Let's draft Darko Milicic. Fuck out of here.
I don't want to discredit the Pistons title, but the Eastern Conference was at its weakest point when they won it.
Facts.
Though there is one thing I should mention, and y'all probably are aware of it. In the 2003 draft, the Pistons had the number 2 pick. And they drafted Darko Milicic. Had they taken Melo or Bosh or D Wade instead, they could have had a true dynasty, a superstar for the next decade, and there's no question they'd be among the greatest teams in NBA history. It's a huge, huge what if. What if they took literally any of the next 3 picks instead of Darko? History would change forever, but we live in reality, so let's get back to it. In 2005, the Pistons once again reached the finals. This time, however, they'd fall to the Spurs in 7 games. This series matched up 2 defensive titans, 2 of the best defensive teams in the NBA. But unlike the Pistons, the Spurs had a competent offense. That season, they had the 8th best offense in the NBA, while the Pistons were 17th. And the difference maker in this series was Manu Ginobili. Every other player on both teams struggled to score, but Ginobili came out and dismantled the Pistons' defense.
Yeah, Ginobili
It was also a breakout season for him. The first year he made the All-Star team.
That's when we realized
Most people,
Ginobili was
coaches
him.
and fans alike believed that Ginobili should have been the Finals MVP, not Duncan. His teammate Fabrizio Oberto stated, "Every time we were in trouble, we just threw the ball to Manu at the top of the court. That was our solution." Mike Budenholzer, who was a former Spurs assistant coach, said, he should have been the MVP of that series, with R.C. Buford adding on at least co-MVP with Timmy. Ironically, Ginobili is exactly what the Pistons were missing in all those years, a guy who you can throw the ball to and create his own shot when you need a bucket.
And if they would have had drafted Carmelo or Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh. You know what I'm saying? Fuck it. You could even drafted a TJ Ford or a Kurt Heinrich. Well, no, not Kurt Heinrich, but TJ Ford was pretty solid. I could have drafted one of them and you would have been good, but nah. Let's draft Darko Milicic.
Hey, yo, what the fuck? For the love of God! For the love of God! Please! Damn! What the fuck is that? That's how I step on niggas. I step on these bitches. Step on shit like you what? It is what it is.
Their wing players, Rip Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince, were primarily off-ball players, guys who'd catch and shoot or run off screens to get open. They weren't really playmakers. This would be the start of a running theme for the Pistons' losses as the years went by. While they were a fiercely tough defensive team in the paint, they would get picked apart by faster, athletic wing players. Also, I should mention, the Pistons lost some key role players compared to the year before, essentially replacing Mehmet Okur and Corliss Williamson with Antonio McDyess. The addition of McDyess turned them into literally the slowest team in the NBA. They were dead last in pace, and they sorely missed the toughness of Williamson on the wings and the shooting of Okur. Now, they weren't huge factors in their championship run, but they played key roles that were important depending on the matchup. Moving on, prior to the 2005-06 season, the Pistons made a monumental decision to get rid of Larry Brown, mostly for two main reasons. They weren't happy with him talking to other teams, and because they needed a change of playstyle to lift their offense out of the shadow.
That's why I say Larry Brown is a gift and a curse to Allen Iverson's career. I swear to God, Larry Brown is a gift, but he is also a curse to Allen Iverson's career. I swear to God, Larry Brown is probably one of the most overrated coaches I've ever known. Probably one of the top 5 overrated coaches I've ever known in the NBA. He was good to Allen Iverson because he made him better, made him an MVP. But at the same time, he was detrimental because he never tried to understand Iverson. He never tried to get an understanding of him. And that's what hurt so much. And that's what caused so much. I feel like Allen Iverson would have been a different player if Larry Brown learned how to be more of a people person instead of a me person. That's the real problem with Larry Brown, bro. And that's why he's an overrated coach. Yeah, he got that ring with Detroit, but you gotta think about it. They just had good defense for that Laker team that year. And as you can see in this 7-game series versus the Spurs, they could, like I said, they could have beat the Spurs if Rasheed Wallace would have stayed on goddamn Robert Horry.
Shadow Realm. So they bought out the remainder of his contract and signed Flip Saunders to be their new head coach. There were initially questions if, is getting rid of the coach that led them to a title and back-to-back finals a good idea? We all know Larry Brown's a legendary coach.
Overrated.
However, almost immediately, we realized it was worth it. The Pistons had their best season of this era. In fact, they recorded their best record in franchise history, winning 64 games. For once, they were not the underdogs anymore. They were the favorites to win the championship. This was the only year they were favorites. The biggest change was their revamped offense. Previously in 04 and 05, they were near the bottom in three-point attempts per game, only taking around 12 as a team. However, in the 05 to 06 season under Flip Saunders, they attempted nearly 18 threes per game. Now, that doesn't seem like much compared to the modern era where everyone takes so many threes now, but back then, 18 threes a game was a lot. As a team, they became top 10 in three-point attempts per game now.
Not
just that, but the Pistons shifted away from ISOs and started running more pick and rolls. Back in the mid-2000s.
Right, that's when they let Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton get loose with it. And that's when they start. That's when they offense started picking up too, because they started letting Chauncey Billups get loose with it, and then you start to see, like, damn, maybe like you started looking at Chauncey Billups a little different. Like, hold on there, like Chauncey Billups might be that nigga, bro, for real.
Thousands, running isolation plays was quite common, so this was a change of style that they desperately needed. It led to more ball movement too. Billups never averaged more than 6 assists per game until this season, where he averaged a career-high 8.6 assists. As a result, the Pistons went from having the 17th best offense to 4th, an incredible improvement. The 2005-06 season was phenomenal in more ways than one. The Pistons even had 4 players in the All-Star game, tied for the most All-Stars from a single team.
And imagine if they would have had Melo. Goddamn.
In any NBA season. However, despite being favorites to win the title for the first time of this era, they faltered. Against the Miami Heat in the conference finals, their defense, once again, got picked apart by an elite wing player. This time, it was Dwayne Wade, who shot a whopping 62% from the field against the Pistons. Shaq shot 66% from the field. The Pistons' offense came to a standstill. In the 6-game series, they only managed to score over 90 points twice. As a team, they shot under 40% from the field in that series. Despite having such a great season, their weakness in the playoffs showed again, getting abused by an elite wing player and not having any response to that. The Pistons don't have a true superstar they can throw the ball to and draw a foul or get a bucket. When their offense is stagnant, it doesn't recover. The Miami Heat were also a great defensive team, and against any good defensive team, the Pistons' offense still looks terrible. Fast forward a year later to the 2007 playoffs. The biggest change over the offseason was the loss of Ben Wallace.
The stupidest move they could
Instead,
ever
he
make.
got replaced by Chris Webber, who, at this point, he was getting too old and way out of his prime.
Shut your goddamn ass up. Cut that bitch off. Stupid bitch. Bitch. Wow. Hey, boy, ain't no fucking way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Why? Boy, ain't no way, boy. Really, nigga? Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no fucking way, boy.
You let Ben Wallace in his prime go for out of his prime Chris Webber. Make it make sense, bro. Detroit. See this? I understand. Chris Webber's from Detroit. I understand that. But he was washed at this point. Knee problems, back problems. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. You gave up a in his prime Ben Wallace for a washed up Chris Webber. See, Detroit. This is why people treat you like the Clippers to a certain extent, and they only talk about your '80s team instead of your 2000s team. Nobody talks about your 2000s team. Everybody talk about them '80s bad boys Pistons because they like that more. And this is why nobody talks about the 2000 Pistons, because look at the bad decisions y'all made. Yeah, y'all got a championship, but terrible decision after terrible decision after terrible decision. You should have drafted Melo. You should have kept Ben Wallace. And y'all would have been Gucci. Y'all would have been y'all probably would have three-peated, bro. I guarantee. If not three-peat, then you would you still would have won 3. You would have won 3 championships. If not a three-peat, then at least you would have won 3 championships. Because like I said, if Rasheed Wallace doesn't do what he did against the Spurs, y'all are two-time champions at this point. But the next year, 06, against the Dallas Mavericks, y'all sweeping them. Then you face off against the Spurs again. Y'all would either get 05 or 07. Because there's no way LeBron James is getting swept in the conference finals if that team had Melo and Ben Wallace. And that's facts. Y'all would have been a dynasty, bro. And that's facts.
Throughout the season, they were still a good defensive team, top 7 in the league, but you can tell, without Big Ben, this was a different team. That tenacity was sorely missing, and nobody was scared of driving into the paint against the Pistons anymore. Especially not LeBron James.
Jason Maxill, that's
Around
the
this
best y'all could
time,
do.
the Eastern Conference saw a major shift in power,
best
as the young guys from the recent draft classes rose into superstardom. These young athletic superstars were taking over the NBA, while the old guard of the Pistons withered away.
And they could have had one
Perhaps
themselves.
the 2007 playoffs represented this transition in the clearest way possible. While LeBron struggled for most of the series, it was Game 5 that captured the attention of the entire world. LeBron dropped a staggering 48 points, including the last 25 points of the game. It was Jordan-esque, one of the greatest performances in the history of basketball.
Yeah, everybody talk about that Game 5. They don't talk about that series as a whole. LeBron was doing terrible in that series. Y'all want to know how they won that series? Boobie Gibson. Boobie Gibson is the reason they got to the NBA Finals, bro. I just want y'all to know. Keisha Cole, ex-baby daddy, is the reason why LeBron went to the Finals in 2007. I just want you to know that. That nigga went off for 25 points and hit 3 after 3 after 3. I remember it because I was watching that game live. And I remember LeBron couldn't do shit. They was locking his ass up. They made sure he couldn't do nothing going forward throughout the rest of the series. That nigga Boobie Gibson and goddamn Zydrunas Ilgauskas is the reason why the Cavaliers went to the finals that year. And they still got their ass swept by the Spurs.
And still, even to this day, in my opinion, it's still the best game of his career. It was a demoralizing...
I don't know about that one. That Game 6 against Boston in 2012, I feel like that's LeBron's best game because he actually went on to win a championship. So, I gotta put 2012 over this performance right here. It's a great performance, but he did terrible throughout this whole series. They was locking his ass up. They need to give Detroit their props, bro. Detroit was locking his ass up, bro. Like I said, Boobie Gibson and Zydrunas Ilgauskas is the reason why the Cleveland Cavaliers went to the final.
You got mail.
And that's facts. You can go to hell. That's facts, my nigga. Go back and watch the series for all my LeBron fans out there.
Defeat, and the Pistons would lose in Game 6 as well. This loss was symbolic of a changing of the guard, the beginning of a new era. But not yet. While they were expected to drop off, the Pistons once again made the conference finals a year later, in 2008. While this season was all about the Boston Celtics and their new Big Three, the Pistons quietly won 59 games. However, at this point, they were outmatched by the more talented Celtics.
It was if they had Ben Wallace, fuck having Melo at this point. If y'all would have just kept Ben Wallace, y'all could have made this a problem for them. Because defensively, Ben Wallace versus Kevin Garnett, that's a great matchup right there. They equal each other out. Because Kevin Garnett's defensive intensity, but his defensive intensity is top notch, but it ain't fucking with no Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace Ben Wallace is a shot blocking savant. But nah, what y'all want to do? Y'all giving away Ben Wallace. You don't draft Melo. Y'all did it to yourselves, Detroit.
With very few roster changes over the years, the Pistons became more and more predictable. This team was also a bit different than the past iterations. Antonio McDyess moved into the starting center spot, and their front court was now one of their weak points, with Rashid getting older as well. Kevin Garnett feasted on them as he had his best series in the playoffs. This loss in 2008 marked the final end to this era. In the following year, the Pistons organization realized their time was up. They were getting older and they could no longer compete with all the new talent in the East. So they traded away Billups, and a year later, they blew up the entire team. It started a drought of 6 consecutive seasons where they missed the playoffs. So at the end of the day, despite winning just 1 title, this era in Detroit was as close to a dynasty as you could get.
Facts.
It's very rare to see a championship team keep the same core for so long, but the Pistons did it, for better or worse. Their main issues, as I mentioned earlier, were never resolved. Their lack of a true ball creator and their weak defense on the wings hurt them a lot.
They didn't have a superstar. They could have
However, even with those weaknesses, they still...
It was a good idea to keep the same core, but when you don't have a superstar, that hurts, bro. Like Chauncey Billups was nice, but he wasn't it. He was good, but he wasn't it. Chauncey Billups is a number 2 option, bro. Like, real talk, Chauncey Billups was always a number 2 option, bro. Like I said, bro, Melo would have been that guy. Dwayne Wade, if they would have drafted him, would have been that guy. Chris Bosh, it depends. It depends on how. It depends on how they utilize him. Will they let him be a stretch 4 and let him expand out to the 3-point line and make him a true threat? And then on top of that, because like Chris Bosh, the young Chris Bosh with the dreads, that motherfucker was a threat. That nigga was a stretch 4 that could slash. He was a threat. And had good defense too. So Chris Bosh would have definitely worked out in their favor too. But they didn't have a true superstar, bruh. That was the big problem. You did the right thing by keeping the core together, but you gotta have a superstar to build around it. You didn't have a superstar to build around. That's why Detroit ultimately failed the way it did.
Still managed to be dominant enough on defense to win a title. That year, everything came together. They had the best chemistry and best teamwork in the NBA, while the Lakers had all the talent but none of the chemistry. I do think they won at the right moment, at a time when the East was at its weakest point.
Yeah, Kobe
However, it's a much different one-and-done title compared to the 2011 Mavs, which I made a video about before. This Pistons team was dominant for so much longer, and if a couple things fell into the right place, they could have won multiple titles. Anyway, that's all, folks. Let me know your thoughts on this era of the Detroit.
Oh my God! All Rasheed Wallace had to do was stay on Robert Horry.
Anyway,
look at
that. That's all, folks.
All you had to do was stay on Robert Horry, man.
This Pistons team was dominant for so much longer, and if a couple things fell into the right place, they could have won multiple titles. Anyway, that's all, folks.
Tayshaun had it. Ben Wallace was right there. Manu was really looking for the foul. Why do you not box out Robert Horry? Rasheed Wallace, come on, man. Oh my God, bro.
Into the right place, they could have won multiple titles.
All you had to do was stay on Robert Horry.
Let me know your thoughts on this era of the Detroit Pistons. Do you think this team doesn't get enough credit for what they did? When you think of the 2000s, you don't really think of them as a team that defined that era. You think of the Lakers and Spurs, I guess.
No, not at all. I think of arguably one of the greatest eras of basketball that we ever seen, where superstars were true to being superstars. You know what I'm saying? Every team had a superstar pretty much. Everybody wasn't teaming up, where the superstar of a certain franchise is now the B player on another franchise now. No, every team had a superstar, so there was a reason to watch every game, because you didn't know who was going to go off. You didn't know if Tracy McGrady was going to go off in Houston one night. You didn't know if Kobe was going to go off one night in LA. You didn't know if LeBron was going to go off one night in Cleveland. You didn't know if Dwayne Wade and Shaq was going to go crazy in Miami. You didn't know if Paul Pierce and KG and Ray Allen was gonna have an incredible game. You didn't know what was gonna happen with Melo and Iverson in Denver. All you knew was when the NBA was on, the channel was changed to NBA. And you watched it and you enjoyed it. Why? Because it was good times, good basketball. Every team was worth watching back then. Nowadays, no team is worth watching now because everybody leaves and teams up. Or teams blow up their teams instead of building around the superstar. They give a superstar, 5 years? And then they just trade them away and then blow the whole thing up and then try to draft again. Then they go into draft purgatory where they stuck in limbo because they can't get their draft pick right. When you already had it, you just had to be patient. And actually try to build around it. See, that's the problem, bro. Everybody's trying to build a super team, not a team. Everybody's trying to build a super team instead of the right team. If you build the right team, you can go far. Look at what the Bucks did with Giannis. No superstars, no top 75 guys, no all-stars, no nothing. All they did was add Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, and PJ Tucker. That was it. Good old days. But anyways, though, that's just going to about do it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next video. Till then, peace out.